Say hello to Frank Caliendo, comedian, actor, impressionist. You can see Frank at the Irvine Improv May 2nd. You'll be at the Seneca Niagara Casino May 17th. Go to frankonstage.com. Longtime friend of the show. Good to see you.
You surprised me. I was not ready for that start. I thought that was the spot. You had some carpeting down.
Yeah.
And I thought, carpeting, a little mini rug taped down. And I thought that's where people stood to when the camera came to you, and then you lifted that up, and my name was there, and I almost got teary. I didn't get teary.
I know,
but I got real close.
But it's a walk of fame. We wanted to have a walk of fame, a red carpet of people who have been instrumental in developing this show, helping this show for the last decade. You've been in the studio a few times.
Yeah.
And Al Michaels is there. We got Reggie Miller on there, Bryan Cranston, Will Ferrell, Patrick Ewing, Chrissy Teigen.
A lot of people way more famous than me is exactly what it is.
Is this the greatest moment of your life?
This is, you know what? Yes. Better than my wedding, better than my 2 children being born. This is it, Dan. You've really figured out how to get to the highest peak of my life.
Also, we were wondering that you could really mess people up on draft day. If you wanted to. Okay, so it sounds like a setup for a bit, but this is true. And I didn't talk to you about this at all. This is no setup. So I'm calling Steve Keim or texting Steve Keim audio messages before. So I'm before the draft, about 4 hours before the draft, because once the draft got close, I didn't hear from him for hours. All right, so the GM of the Cardinals.
So I'm sending Steve Keim messages from John Gruden. I'll tell you what, man. I love you, brother. I got an idea. How about you draft somebody else at number 1? And how about you draft Joey Bosa at number 1? And then I'll draft Kyler Murray at number 4. We'll make a trade. I'll give you my 27th pick. You give me a second rounder. We have the best trade ever, man. I think it works out for both teams. So then he got that, and then he sent it on to some other people. I called him up as Jay Glazer, too. I was like, you're not going to believe this. I just heard there's unbelievable stuff going on. And you can't do Jay Glazer without swearing every 5 seconds. There's F this, F that. Steve, you got to go. And then Schefter, I called a Schefter, and the Schefter, I'm like, listen, I hear you're talking to both Ian Rappaport and Jay Glazer, and I just want you to know my phone is on, and if you ever need to talk to me, I'll be here wherever I am, in a chair, sitting perfectly upright and prepared. And then Steve sent that on to Schefter, and then Schefter texts me, look what I got from Steve Keim. What are you doing? So Schefter, who always says, I just don't hear myself when you're talking is me. I'm not sure if it's right.
But I think most people react that way, don't they?
Some do. It's funny how close some voices are, because Schefter with a cold is Ian Rappaport. It's weird. I don't know why, but they're the same guy. If you have that cadence, you become an NFL insider, unless you're Jay Glazer. And Jay Glazer's like, you want to work out? Let's work out. Good night. I'm on my way to work out. You know what I'm going to do on my way to work out? I'm going to work out. Double workout. Do you think I could play Ram Man and He-Man the movie? Do you think I can do that? I'm not even sure if I have a neck. I'm sure.
I don't know if many people are doing Ian Rappaport, though. I mean, it's very niche.
Yeah, if you think Adam Schefter's niche, then
no, Shefty though is people know Shefty.
It's the Simpsons world. That's what this. I've pigeonholed myself at this point. I'm actually doing Adam Schefter while trying not to do it. I've actually pigeonholed myself in a lot of ways into doing all these sports impressions that are so niche. Like nobody outside of the sports world knows Mel Kiper Jr. You know, the whole ta. And here's every time I see McShay, he's like, you've ruined my life. I'm like, why? Because all I hear is Todd. They didn't know your name before I did that. You were the other guy with Count Chocula.
But my audience, the sports audience, eats this.
Absolutely, yeah. People get it. I do some weird ones too. Like I go to just to mess Rich Eisen show up. Who's a good friend, right?
Yeah.
So I can mention that.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'll just go on and do Steve Mariucci hands. That's the whole thing. Is do the mooch hands. He's just hey, look at my headphones are coming off. You got to take a look over here. We're going out that way, and I'm real life Chris Farley back in it.
You're messing things up here.
That's
in
all
the
right.
man cave.
Yeah. All right, we're back.
Steve Keim is joining us. Your good friend, the Arizona Cardinals GM.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
How did you put up with Frank on draft day? At least prior to the draft, with all these prank phone calls.
He turned his phone off.
Well, I mean, is this really Dan or is this Frank?
Well, it could be Dan and Jim Rome asking you questions.
How great is this? Probably the best show that's. Don't
Dan,
talk over me, Steve. I don't. You maybe.
Dan, it was torture. I felt like I did 3 or 4 trades with the Raiders, and I had to call Mike Mayock and realize it wasn't really them.
How long have you guys known each other?
Probably.
How long, Frank?
Probably 6-7 years, something like that. Because Lance Zierlein out of Houston, who works NFL Network, and so his dad was coaching with he was a line coach for the Cardinals, and he was on a plane, and he says, I text Lance, I go, is this your dad? And a picture of him. He's like, yeah. So I ended up getting to meet Steve through that, and the Cardinals facility is on the same street I live on. It's just 3 blocks down, with like 3 miles or something like that. I came in and just met with Steve, and it kicked off. It was a lot of fun. It was incredible, and he's always like, do you know how many people know you? I'm like, I'm a big deal, man.
Yeah, but you're also a Packer fan, aren't you?
Well, Steve has lured me. I'm going to be a huge Kyler Murray fan.
Oh,
absolutely huge. I'm getting way on board. I'll always be a Packer fan, somewhat, but because I grew up there. But here's the thing. I like being friends with an NFL GM, so I'm going to be a huge Kyler Murray fan.
All right, let me get some business out of the way with Steve, unless you want to grill him on.
No, let's have. You're better at this.
Okay,
you're pro.
Right. When did you decide? What was the reason why you decided on Kyler Murray when you did, Steve?
Well, I think just because we had the time and we wanted to go through the process. There was no reason to speed it up. And, once you can take in all the information, not only from your coaches and your scouts and all the due diligence we did on the University of Oklahoma campus, I think at the end of the day, it became crystal clear, probably the week before that Kyler was the guy.
But was there something there that you saw, if you hadn't made up your mind prior to the draft, what was it that you were hesitating on, or that you finally convinced yourself and everybody else that was the right guy?
Well, I think it's my job to really look at the big picture, which is, feeling out whether Josh Rosen plus, a defensive player is better than Kyler Murray and potential trade value. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we really just had to look at the big picture, and it was just too hard to pass Kyler up just because of the dominating traits that he has, the skill set, the things that I feel like he can do on the field to make us a better offense. There's no doubt that to me, he's the guy that catapults this organization moving forward.
Anybody try to blow your doors off with trying to get that number 1 pick?
Well, Frank Caliendo played as John Gruden was probably the best call I got. But, at the end of the day, there wasn't enough of a market to get us to come off of trading or drafting Kyler.
Here's the funny thing before you go on, Dan, with another question. I've never heard him talk in this cadence to me before. This is his the professional cadence is something complete. Not that it's bad or anything, but it's just you've never said the way you're speaking right now. I've never felt that. Like I coached the flag football team with his son, and he's like, "Well, what you're doing right now seems to be you're going outside." There's never in your time.
I'm well versed in hearing this and understanding what Steve is doing.
It's such a different.
If we were together and the microphone wasn't on, and then I asked these questions, I'm going to get probably a little better, colorful answers.
I could imagine coaching if I didn't put Carson in enough. Yeah, what's going on here right now? We're not seeing enough playing time. Not that I'm saying I want to be an involved parent. I'm not that right now, but because I usually step aside, sit on my lawn chair, and check texts from players who are worried about different things. You have no idea how many. I've never seen a guy on his phone more than Steve Keim. It's like I'm like, what's going on?
Schefter.
Well, yeah, Shefty's up there.
He's got double.
But it's the look on Keim's face. Like Shefty gets stuff, and it's always like, oh, this is good. The stuff on Steve is like, oh boy.
The offer for Josh Rosen. How many teams did you hear from for Josh Rosen?
Well, we had a number of conversations. But,
here we go. Here we go.
Certainly the best partner was Miami.
How many teams did you hear from?
We talked to probably around 5 teams in total.
I like what you did with the draft. I think Murphy out of Washington, I think he starts right away. Thompson out of Alabama, Butler out of Iowa State. I think people focus on the top part of the draft, but you win with those middle rounds, those late rounds. And I think Arizona did a really good job here, Steve.
Yeah, I think the one thing we wanted to focus on, Dan, was playmakers, and three of those receivers were in the top 8. I think Andy Isabella was one, and then we had 6 and 8 in terms of receiving production in the NCAA, which again goes to show that those guys are perimeter threats, and can certainly. Andy Isabella is a guy that's got great speed and can take the top off. And then Mr. Relevant was Caleb Wilson out there at UCLA, and he led the NCAA as a tight end in receiving yards. So. A number of guys that I think can help us early. Also excited about Zach Allen, a defensive end from Boston College, who, in my time scouting, I don't think I've scouted a defensive lineman who's had 100 tackles.
Well, we appreciate your time as always. I look forward to talking to you off the air so then I can compare and contrast these answers.
I'll tell you how good. I thought there was no way that Steve would call in, and I thank you very much for being that good of a friend. What I almost did with him is I almost called him. I'll tell you what, man. You know how I would take it number 1? Zion Williamson, man. That's who you take. Zion. You can't defend him, man. Zion taking it to the hoop. Good guy.
Arizona may get both Kyler Murray and Zion Williamson.
Think about that, man. That would be tremendous.
Hey, Steve.
He should have gone to the Giants. If you're taking a Duke guy, you're not taking a quarterback. You're taking Zion Williamson, man, and I'm blowing the speakers out of this place.
Thank you, Steve.
See, Dan, it never gets old.
I know.
See you soon, Frank.
All right, that's
Tell my wife.
Steve Kahn, Arizona Cardinal GM.
God, that was funny to me, that cadence change, because he's very soft. They all do. It's not like it's...
They have to.
Yeah, because you have to turn... There's a switch you have to flip on that you... As a GM, I've gotten to know this too, that... Not as a GM, but I talked to knowing a few GM, guys. You have to always be careful about what you're saying. You can't give away too much. You want to give away some piece. It's relationships with the press and stuff like that. I could never do it. I would just tell everybody everything.
You got to work on your Dave Gettleman.
That would be
Giants GM.
Yeah,
but you better hurry up. I don't.
That's one of those.
He's like his voice.
Yeah.
It feels like he's, from Staten Island.
Every time I see John Schneider, he's doing Gruden to me. Like Schneider's like, I'll tell you what, man. Like it's a little higher, man. You're doing chunky. I'm doing Chucky. There we go.
If you were, Jonah Hill did this. Jonah Hill growing up used to prank phone calls to businesses. And then he was working on a character, I believe, Wolf of Wall Street, where he would calling Samsung and asking questions as if he was, consumer, but he wanted somebody to talk to use the voice. Have you ever prank phone called?
Well, years and years ago, I pranked a news station as John Madden, and I just said, it was when he was on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember. It was Sunday Night Football, right? Because he went to NBC. And I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, are you drunk? Yeah. Al Michaels is standing on a box. It's not doing that. And then they wanted to put me on the air live, and I'm like, I can't do this. I will get in so much trouble. So I backed out of it. But no, I try to use my powers for good as opposed to evil. So, but I have messed with insiders and stuff. I've messed with Glazer, or I messed with Schefter years ago, calling him as Glazer. I was like, Witten's retiring. You can't believe this. Why is Jason Witten retiring? This is 6, 7 years ago. And then Schefter said, why would Jay Glazer be calling me with a scoop? That doesn't compute. I don't even think Schefter would say makes sense. That does not compute. My neurotransmitters are firing, and for some reason, helium Adam Schefter has returned.
We'll take a break. Frank Caliendo, or as Terry Bradshaw would call you, Frank Caliendo.
Tell you what, I don't like him anymore, but I still love him into pieces.
Did you think that Terry did not like you on Fox? Truly?
No, it's like wrestling, right? He'd always come in. It's like wrestling, right? Like you're a bad guy, I'm a good guy. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Let me jump off the top turnbuckle, Frank. Why? Can't we just do a clothesline?
We'll come back. We'll continue with Frank Caliendo. Also, more phone calls, best and worst of the weekend. Frank Caliendo here in the Man Cave. FrankOnStage.com for all the information on his stand-up tour. Who did you admire growing up? Oh, man.
His tire from the ping pong. I got killed, too.
McLovin, you're really good in ping pong.
I am with the proper equipment. You don't give Tiger Woods a bunch of tree branches.
Oh, come on.
Look at my Twitter feed. Ask him about the Twitter feed. Because I was trying to spin the ball. Like the paddle I have, and it is kind of cheating, but everybody has it. The paddle I have is probably about $300.
Yeah.
And it's made from, I think, vibranium and The rubber on each side is like $75.
Is that a real
each.
word?
Vibranium? No, that's it's from Wakanda. It's a in Avengers reference.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was out of breath from that. But he did. I think you would beat me in like garage table tennis because I can't do any of my special moves.
Dan, it sounds like he's doing an impersonation of someone making excuses. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm not doing an impression of it at all. I'm just making excuses. You know what? All right. And in terms of GMs and name dropping today, I played Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey's a good table tennis player. Crush him. Destroyed. Like to the point where he thought about quitting and then only being a GM for the Rockets.
Who's the best table tennis player in the world?
Maybe Ma Long, Jean GK, these guys. That's it. It was this guy named Waldner for years. He was a European guy, but I'd say when you play people that are at such a high level, like you think you can hit the ball but they know where the ball's going before you even hit it. And then I was playing this guy named Lupulescu, and he was spinning the ball.
Was that his full name?
I'm not sure. Okay. I tried to spin. He underspun the ball, so you have to try and lift it or spin under to get it back. And I tried to lift it, and he went, no, that's not what you're going to do, baby.
And what happened?
You can't because they just spin the ball and you don't think it's going to hit the table and all of a sudden it's diving down. Those guys are so good. It's ridiculous.
Maybe you're like a color commentator for table tennis.
Yeah. Do you think that's
like Fred Willard in the Best in Show?
Yeah. It would be, there was a ping pong movie years ago. It was probably called Pong or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they probably did something like that. I was trying to think of somebody good to do that. I'd go back to the Gruden or something like that. I'll tell you what, man. He's gonna go for a short forehand there right now. And he flipped it. That's a banana flip, Chiquita, man.
Who have you heard recently where you go, you know what? That might be somebody to invest in.
Maybe like a Tony Romo. The excitement. He's just so excited about everything.
You got to predict everything.
You have to know the future. I don't know why he's not on the draft, just doing all the predictions before. You know who's going to be here. So I mean,
you're brilliant at bringing people into real life. When you
that's the thing is you take them out of that. You do. It's a formula, really, and it's why I've been working on a lot of stuff outside of the impressions because it does get so formulaic for me. But like it's the color commentator. What they do is they break down something in a game. We just take that and you break down something in real life, and then that formula seems to work for everything because it's stuff that people can relate to.
But I saw there's a list here of your top 10 impressions. I'm curious what you think your best impression is, because this is Morgan Freeman at 10.
That's a good one, Sonny.
Robert De Niro at 9.
I don't know.
8, Stephen A. Smith.
I have to say I'm incredulous to this entire situation. I understand what's going on the ping pong table.
The entire cast of Seinfeld.
What are you talking about? I have no idea. Hey, Jerry, that's a good one.
You don't do Elaine?
Jerry.
Al Pacino.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Robin Williams.
Oh, so sad. That's weird because you do that. I do the Robin Williams. I don't do it in my act anymore. And people will say, do some Robin Williams. I'm like, what's going to happen is all the women are going to I miss him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
John Gruden at number 4.
Yeah, that's a good one, man.
Charles Barkley, number 3.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I should have 2 stars, Dave. Dan. I called you Dave. I thought I was on Letterman. Why'd I call you Dave, knucklehead?
The presidents, George Bush and Bill Clinton.
That's who made this list? These are some old guys. All the new impressions, people get in trouble. That's the problem.
John Madden is one.
Yeah. Boom. There you go. Like nobody ever puts Robert Downey Jr. Okay. There you go. Do me a favor. Enjoy yourself. Liam Neeson got in trouble. You can't do that anymore.
No, you can't.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see him in Men in Black. What the reaction's going to be there, which seems like he shouldn't even be in that. So I was watching, there's another one. I was watching Chris Hemsworth, and he's going to play Hulk Hogan. Have you seen that? And all we've ever heard him do is like, Loki, my brother. Like, can you imagine that audition, what that's like? They're like, all right, try it out, Chris. Okay, let me tell you something, brother. No, it's not quite there. Can you try again? All right, I've got this. And let me tell you something, brother. No, you're still not. Oh, no, I've got it. Let me tell you something, brother. I think that's it. Okay, one more time. Let me tell you something. Brother. You're going to train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins like all those Hulkamaniacs out there. You got the part, but just work on it.
When you are on an airplane, you ever gotten cornered where you can't escape?
In terms of like people knowing who I am.
And then wanting you to, hey, we got a 5-hour flight to LAX.
They're usually pretty nice. I was on this is the most embarrassing thing. I was on a flight going to LAX and Aquaman was on it, Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he was on that plane, but people are walking around going, dude thinks he's Jason. That is Jason Momoa. But he was with his family, so nobody wanted to bother him. And everybody's taking pictures of him. He catches me taking a picture of him. And I was like, crap. And then the worst part was, and then he's like, then we had this great conversation because he was like, ugh. And I was like, that's all, no, bro. And then the flight attendant comes over to me and she's like, you're going to erase that, correct? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to, which was a lie, right? So then now I have a picture of Jason Momoa like telling me not to take a picture of him. And I want to go, I'm famous too, kind of.
FrankOnStage.com.
Irvine this week, and then Niagara Falls, Seneca, Niagara in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to see you. Thank you for stopping by the Man Cave.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.